Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah and I am a master manifester, and I'm sure you are too because you're watching content like this. The name of this channel is Holistic Manifesting, and I just want to say welcome to those who have been around for a minute. Welcome to all the new subscribers that showed up last month. And then, welcome to the people that are checking it out and haven't decided whether or not I am their cup of tea. What I am discussing today is the idea of less is more, right? I know we've heard this term quite often when it refers to um, makeup and getting dressed and that sort of thing, especially for women. But there is a part of that less is more mindset that we can take into almost every aspect of our lives in order to live a more simple and a more peaceful and a more quiet and abundant life, right? So I like to call it quiet abundance, right? It's not flashy, it's not overpowering, it's very much so quiet abundance, and it's beautiful. So there's an area of our lives where we can apply this concept in, and depending on where you are in your journey, you'll see where this fits into your space, right? Number one I have on my list are friends, right? I remember thinking many times in my life, because I've always had these little small friend groups at different times, 2 or 3 people, right? And then a bunch of associates. Um, Over time, those types of groups for myself have, uh, they've been minimized. And it's not in a way of anything negative. It's just that the further you get along in life, the less you may have in common with a lot of people, right? So if they are married with kids and their kids are in a toddler phase, but you are, divorced with 15 and a 17-year-old, you may not have a lot in common to share. So it's just lifestyles start to differ in a certain way. Um, I used to think it was so important to always have somebody to talk to if I needed to go somewhere or do something. And I'm not even a person that necessarily needs that, but I used to think like as long as somebody was there. But I've gotten to this place in my life where I have these really solid and beautiful connections, and they're solid and beautiful connections that are happening from afar. And when they show up and when they're in my space, it is so much more abundant, it's so much more peaceful, and it's so much more divine, the timing, than if I was sitting there chatting and sending text messages every single day, right? I was just telling my daughter about a week ago, I was like, you know what? I said, I think this is one of the only times in my life where I've not had like, some type of female friend group that I have in my vicinity. And it's like, let's go do lunch, let's go do this or whatever. But at the same time, in that same week, I had 3 women who have been very instrumental in my life reach out to me just to see how I was doing. Another one invited me on a beautiful international excursion that I can't wait for. So excited. And then the other one was like, I know you do this type of work. There's some contracts that I'm working on. And so it's like what I find now is that the relationships I have in my life now, there's a lot less of them, but they're so much more full and they're so much more abundant, right? Another area where I've employed this less is more concept is in my social media, socializing. And if you've been on the channel, I've mentioned before that I do not have social medias, right? Now I have some pages that are lingering out there that I can't get rid of because I can't log into them, especially Facebook. But it's like a while ago I cut that out of my life because for me, it was just another place where I can go check on and consume and see what other people were doing. And it wasn't necessarily something that was expanding my life or benefiting me on a daily basis. And often it was a distraction from what I wanted to be doing that day. So if I had all of these to-do list items that I wanted to take care of, I would notice that I'm sitting on something like Facebook or Instagram for like an hour. Then I look up and I'm like, even my mood has shifted. And then I'm not even quite prepared for the type of work that I was going to do that day, right? So we just need to keep that in mind that social media can be one of those huge areas where less is more is amazing. So while I only ever spend my time now on places like YouTube, which is really the only, if you call it social media that I have, I spend a lot more time consuming content that's related to where I want to be in life, where I am in life, and kind of, tips and tricks and hints about, keeping this beautiful, simplistic life, right? And so, just in your mind, you have to think about how is social media affecting me? Is it changing my moods when I go through the feed? Is a lot of information all at once, and sometimes it's just too much information, right? Another area is in to-do lists. I just mentioned that, but I remember my days whenever I was like, oh, free day, when I don't owe anybody anything, I don't have to do anything, and possibly my daughters, if they don't come home until like 7 p.m. or something, and I'm looking at a whole day of this quiet freedom. I used to not feel good about the day unless I had this like 15 item to do list that I had to cross off, and I would feel so accomplished. And I'm like, I gotta stop at World Market for this. I need to stop at Sprouts for this. I need to go to Whole Foods for this. I need to go to the UPS place for this. And I need to go to the music store for my daughter. I had all these little things lined up, and I would feel so accomplished. But on the other end of that, I would feel exhausted. Now, these days, I don't try to fill my days with anything. When the day is free, I allow the day to be free. And I'm perfectly okay with that. And my daughter came home the other day and she was like, what'd you do today? And I said, absolutely nothing. I said, I laid on the couch. I didn't have any work to do. I said, and I kind of watched this new show on PBS that I was into, like a murder mystery. And she's like, sounds great. She was like, you deserve that. And I'm like, yeah, I really, really do. So we just have to remember that if we shrink those to-do lists, that quiet simplicity is right around the corner. Another area is in home decor. I noticed this too when I was younger. The more things I had on my walls, the more clutter I had in my space, the more comfortable I felt, the better. It felt more homely and it felt more, um, I guess that's a good word for it, but just homely. Because I'd grown up in places where there was a piece of decor on every single aspect of the walls. There was something everywhere. There were family pictures strewn about all throughout the house and stuff. And for me at this point in my life, that just doesn't work for me, right? I even, sometimes think, oh, I should do some wall art. And I just never get around to it because I'll be honest with you, I love these clean, white, fresh walls. I love just the openness and the minimalist approach to home decor. And also, too, I think it's a reflection of what you have going on in the inside. And the more I simplified my life, the more that I took out things that were kind of distracting and unnecessary, the more I didn't care to have, trinkets hanging around the house that were just collecting dust, like little knickknacks and stuff. And I'm in the store sometimes and I see these things and I'm like, oh, that would be perfect in my house. And then I think 1 second about what it would take to upkeep it and dusting it and all these things. And I'm like, nah, I'll pass. And it happens so much. But I find that I've just sunken into the place of I love clean, minimalist simplicity. And it makes me feel peaceful. And it's way less to do on a regular basis, right? There's way less to clean, right? My interactions is another area when I go out and I interact with people because I'm so introverted and I'm like one of the most introverted people that I know. Because I'm so introverted, I would find myself when I was running these errands and knocking off these things on my to-do list. If someone, started a conversation with me, I would always feel like, oh, wait, I really need to talk to them because, well, I don't really talk to people, so this is an opportunity. And I would find myself performing a little bit more just to kind of, have a connection and have a conversation. But it's like now I have one of these coffee shops that I go to, and it's one of my favorites. There's a person that works there, and he's always like, "Oh, I like your outfit, your clothes, whatever. That's a cool outfit." And I'm like, "Oh, nice, right?" I notice I like when people notice the detail in my simplicity there, and I would find myself not really wanting to perform. I'm like, oh, thank you very much. And I'm like, you have a good day. And unless there were any more questions or anything to share, I found that just having a pleasant attitude and just being open and being peaceful and just having a smile on my face was more than enough in my interactions. And then I would come back from, running my errands or doing things that I need to do, and I would feel calm and clear as opposed to wondering if I said the wrong thing, did I do this, did I do that? I kind of minimized what I was doing. I'm like, just do what naturally comes to you. Be organic in your interactions, right? There's a very much so simplistic and minimalist approach to interactions that I truly enjoy. And to me, it makes those interactions a lot more thoughtful, right? Because they're not like putting on a show. Another one is in travel. Okay, so I'm a person that was like, travel bug, travel bug, travel bug. That's what I've been doing for a long time. My daughters, when they would go visit the other side of the family, I've always had a trip lined up somewhere to go, something to do. I can honestly say from like 2020 all the way up until 2023, like 4 years in a row, I must have went on 3 trips like every single year, right? And this is including international and um, within the states. All of this is included. And I can honestly tell you that it almost takes away from the joyfulness of the experience. So I told my daughters at the beginning of 2024, as I sent the oldest one off to Spain, I was like, "Do you want to go? Do you want to go somewhere?" Because I was supposed to go. And I was like, I think you'll be okay, right? I think you'll be fine. And so it was really nice and peaceful to be able to send a 16-year old off on a trip to Spain and not really think about, oh, it's going to be this and that. I need to go with her and I need to watch over because she matured in that process, and then I was able to rest and relax. And so I think that sometimes that we see these beautiful pictures online, we see people going to this place, going to that place, and visiting here and there, and we hear about these trips, but sometimes we have to just be like living vicariously through other people and say, "Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm happy that she was able to experience that. What a beautiful trip," or something like that. Instead of being caught up with, I need to be going somewhere too. Because let me tell you, I've taken the whole year off from doing anything and going anywhere. And I had 2 work trips that I had to take, and I somehow got out of them. And it's been so peaceful, right? Because if we're being honest, going through airports and going through customs and going through TSA, it's not very relaxing, right? It can be very exhausting. And so just taking a break from that so you can appreciate the privilege of being able to travel again is something that I noticed worked really well in me having this simple, abundant sort of life. Like I don't have to go anywhere today, right? And it makes those bigger trips a lot more enjoyable because you're not just worn out or spun. And this even counts for road trips because road trips can really take it out of you. And there were things that I wanted to show up to this year that I'm just like, I don't have the bandwidth for it. And I'm going to be exhausted. I know how I am. And I'm perfectly okay with saying no to things that I don't have the space for. And another thing is, I guess the last thing I have on my little list is workplace stuff. Because if you're anything like me, you've been one of those people that's in the workplace that people have called a rock star. And you're amazing. You do such great work, and you love hearing those accolades because you really take pride in what you do. You really enjoy what you bring to others, right? And so I just noticed, like in the past few months, I'm working with a lot of people who are probably about 10 years my junior. But it's not a trend. There are people that are like 10 years older than me. So there's a lot of people that's still in technology that are, age doesn't seem to be a huge factor. But what I noticed is that that energy of just approving it was kind of out there. And a part of me wanted to jump in, right? Like I see a couple of people on the collaboration teams that I work with, and everything that pops up, oh, I can do that, and I have extra information, and they do things ahead of time. They do things that aren't even asked of them. And I remember when I had a lot of that in me, right? And I'm not even knocking it because I believe it's gotten me to the peaceful place that I am in now when it comes to career related things. And I was seeing this happening, and a part of me like wanted to jump in. It's like, shouldn't you want to jump in and like, get those accolades and like prove your value and all this kind of stuff? But I was like, nah, my resume speaks for itself. I'm good. And so that's another thing that we notice. Like when you start to employ this minimalist and simplistic way of being, you realize that you've spent a lot of time trying to show people what you are as opposed to just relax and being who you are in all those spaces. And what I find is that I'm not exhausted by what I've taken on, right? I'm not sitting at my computer until 9 p.m. because I said that I can do this. I can, edit that video. I can create this graphic. I can do this, coding or whatever I put myself in that I wanted to prove that I know how to do. And instead, I let the people who are hungry for that kind of stuff go ahead and have it, right? And what I'm not going to do is get in their way. I think it's beautiful. And I work with people with like that right now. And I'm like, oh, it's so lovely. She did this. I give full credit to them. And I have no desire to like jump in and show anything that I know how to do because while I've been doing what I do for a very long time. And like I said before, you got to get to a place where your value and your resume and your background and how you show up is more than enough, right? So that's kind of like my lessons in a minimalist type of simplistic abundant lifestyle. And I guess this is a bonus one I'll add. I noticed something the other day, and this is kind of like not like anybody else should do this, but my daughter was talking about her weigh-ins with her, sports that she participates in. And I have a scale, but I would almost never get on it, right? But I noticed that when I got on the scale, I was like maybe 7 pounds larger than what I was in high school. And the reason why I remember is because I remember my measurements because I got my prom dresses made custom, and I also had like winter formal dresses made custom, and I remember my measurements exactly. What has changed though is my inches. My waist is 1 inch bigger, and I was thinking about that, how that's not even something that I truly focus on. But I feel like I can attribute that to the simple way that I approach exercise and diet. So I just make sure that when I'm eating, what are the most simplest ingredients that I can use? Even if I'm doing something that's, an elaborate meal, I'm still not overdoing it with too many ingredients that aren't healthy for me. And then like exercise, people say, what do you do exercise, right? I have these little weights that I lift around sometimes just to keep my arms toned. But for the most part, it's doing some gentle yoga on a daily basis for the most part, and then walking. I walk a lot, right? I love to get out there in nature and just get some walking done. And I feel like sometimes we can just overdo like how we approach our health and fitness journeys. And really, the most minimal approach and the most quietly abundant approach is what's going to get us to whatever those goals are, right? So I have no, goals of like, I got to get to back to high school weight. If you have kids, you already know that is not always an option for the most part, right? And it's not even saying through the years my weight has fluctuated. But it was just funny when I heard that. I was like, dang, I was only like 7 pounds smaller in high school. That's kind of interesting. And I think that just feeling good every single day. I've also added things like vitamins into my regular daily activities. And then I've also added things like facial treatments that I do myself, you know, doing my own gel manicures myself, because those things, they feel peaceful and they feel good whenever I'm doing it. And it's what I kind of spend my time on. And so what I found is that I needed a reset with YouTube, especially with creating these videos, because I felt like I had been spending so much time talking about what I was able to accomplish in spite of, instead of focusing on, you've manifested these beautiful things, you've manifested this beautiful life, and now it's time to sit back and just enjoy it. Now it's time to sit back and just appreciate it. Now it's time to sit back in that quiet and that silence and that beautiful, vanilla candle scent that you got going on, the fresh flowers I like to bring into my house every day, the beautiful plants, the bright light, and just enjoy being where you are and looking at where you've come from, and just like, the past is the past. Now we're in this space. Let's enjoy this beautiful space that we've created. Let's enjoy this life that we've created at this point, right? Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed my video on less is more, how to create a quiet and simple and minimalist abundant life. It doesn't have to be flashy or big, and you don't have anything to prove to anybody. You can enjoy your beautiful life, and like, nobody even really has to know that your life is as beautiful as it is, right? And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day.